People deluded. Now, good morning to you, and I hope you're all doing well. Yesterday, you all saw a great win for Arsenal, 4-2 comeback. I say comeback, even though we were leading. 4-2 victory against Tottenham Hotspur against Spurs. The game had everything in it. When it's all said and done, I watched it again. It was a terrific game for the neutrals, and watching it again, it was a good game. There's some negatives I can pick out at Arsenal. There's a lot of positives. And things like that. So with the help of my tactics board, I might as well speak about them real quick. First and foremost, we might as well speak quickly about the shape or about how we set up. And it did change in the second half. We'll speak about it in the second half. But for me, apologies, it's early in the morning. Don't know how that dropped. This is what I like to see now. This was us in the first half. Second half, we changed, and we'll speak about that in a sec. But what did you see? You saw a lovely shape. We had a 3-4-3. Obviously, I have to exaggerate the fullbacks. What I liked about the fullbacks is how they really, at least in the first 20 minutes, I wouldn't say we defended. Well, we did defend well in the first 20 minutes, to be fair with you, from what I've watched. I liked our shape. We pressed high. Obviously, you can see here, you've got Aubameyang, you've got Mkhitaryan, and you've got Iwobi. They're supposed to be out there, and they were out there. You saw Iwobi and Kola linking up on the left-hand side very well. Many 1-2s against Aurier, doubling up against him down that left-hand side. If it wasn't Kolasinac bursting forward, it was Iwobi feeling one through and things like that. And we really isolated them. But what I liked is how you saw all three of them two of them come closer to Aubameyang, and they pressed together. Obviously, because they're coming narrow and pressing and not allowing Spurs' players, the ones in blue, and outball, there's more freedom for the fullbacks again to isolate the fullbacks to isolate 2v1 situations, or for the our fullbacks to go down the sides, and we did that to devastating effect. And as well, obviously, as you can see, we pressed very well. The fullbacks are relatively high. Xhaka was pressing as well, as was Torreira. Then you had these three men. And Spurs had no outball. You saw Lloris many a time forced to go long to Kane, and it just came back to us. And it's actually that was actually for one of the, what was it? In the build up to their first goal, it's actually a long ball from Lloris. I think Kane fouls Mustafi. The ball goes from Mustafi. I think it's eventually recycled back to Leno. Leno plays it down the left to Kola. Kola actually plays it in this channel. And Aubameyang, like I told you, the runs that need to happen in the game, or why I wanted him to start on the left, it's a good ball. He actually runs and meets the pass. Obviously, Aurier does poorly because he's not positioned right. It's a lovely pass. He's making a mistake, so he's on his back heels. He takes down Aubameyang. And what did I tell you guys about these sort of situations? Fair enough, Aubameyang didn't start out wide, but that's the sort of thing I wanted to see. Obviously, we then get a corner, and they go. We get a corner, and we take full advantage of the not the corner, of the free kick. Sorry, and it's a lovely work free kick from ourselves. For Thingy. It's a lovely work free kick from ourselves, and obviously we get a penalty and we eventually pull it away. But just on the topic of Spurs, if we were to look at what Spurs actually did wrong from that set piece, let me draw it for you people, give me a sec. If we was to look at what Spurs did wrong, you had a lot of, it doesn't need to be to fit, you had a lot of people doing different things. But one thing that was of key, it's actually Dele Alli, and I don't think it's Dele Alli's fault, you know. I think it's actually poor marking from Spurs. In the same way, I think we pressed Spurs' backline very well and things like that. I think what helped us, especially in the first half, playing out from the back, I don't know if Son and Kane were quite tired. Don't get twisted, we'll get onto Son in a bit, his runs. But, yeah, I don't know if he was tired, but anyways, they didn't press our backline enough. But for me, I don't know if you lot can see it, people. It's a corner, Spurs defending the corner. You've got a bunch of Spurs players in blue. And then you've got us. If you remember, Dele Alli, I don't know if there's zonal marking, but Dele Alli's actually got two players. He's got Socrates and Mustafi. Now, if you look at Vertonghen, if you look at a couple, they're experienced players. I don't know what any of them are doing. Arsenal are not a big side. Arsenal, we take advantage of set pieces. Ironically, this time last year at the Emirates against Spurs. But I wouldn't class us as necessarily a threat from wide positions or a dominant side in the air. That being said, if you look at the side, Mustafi is one of them players that typically score headers or is going to be an error. So an experienced player like Vertonghen, etc., they should have read it, because Socrates and Mustafi are making a run together. Socrates makes a good run, and he's actually able to shield Mustafi. Mustafi's been given too much time to get a run up and size up the cross. By then it's too late, and he's got a good leap on him, and he's got a good run up because he's not being marked. Jan Vertonghen's got no chance, and then you see him bizarrely handle the ball. So I like to see that was good from us and probably poor from Spurs. I just thought I'd show that for a Spurs fan perspective. And again, on the topic of ball playing, just to probably show it from a different angle. Yeah, let me see if I can draw this to fit. Yeah, Loris. Yeah, Loris there. Yeah, obviously you had the two centre halves that came extremely wide. Ben Davies was trying to be up here. You had the Spurs right back. Then you had an out ball here. I'm going to show you in a sec, people. Again, what I liked from start to finish is that we had a willingness to press them. We were trying to limit. There was an incident, I can't remember the minute, but I liked how we was limiting them. Whenever Loris got the ball, we was pressing their centre halves. Their centre halves, I can't draw it to fit people, but their centre halves, when Loris got the ball, right, that scared me. When their centre halves got the ball, people, you saw both centre halves. I mean, keeper got the ball, going wide to the edge of their yard box. They were being right here essentially. See, it's not to fit, to open up the pitch for the fullbacks as well, to make it bigger for the fullbacks. We pressed us Arsenal boys, pressed them extremely well. One coming through the middle, one there. Again, limiting space. They had nowhere to go. If it came to the men, if they did have men in the middle, like Eriksen, quickly swarmed him like some bees. There was no real option. So again, it's an out. It's going back to Loris, and it's a long ball forward, and that was really good from us. I really liked how we came with that. So I've spoken about Daly. I've spoken about the foul that led to the goal. We've touched on the pressing, and again on the topic of the pressing in an attacking sense again, which I liked, to show us the striker at the top. Again, got the two up there in midfield. You've got Xhaka and Torreira. You had our fullbacks. I really liked this. At times I thought our line was too high, but I really liked how we got up the field. Aubameyang was there in the first half. Mkhitaryan and Iwobi, our fullbacks. Xhaka, who was slightly higher than Torreira. We were pressing, getting at Spurs, not allowing Spurs time to come here and play out from the back and pick passes. They can't play quite on our level, but they've got Vertonghen, they've got Foy. He got destroyed yesterday, but he's decent with a ball at his feet. Now, if we was to look at a negative, Arsenal would be red, do our own goal. Arsenal. Now, there was one incident, yeah, people. Now, one criticism, and I said it last game, I think it was for I can't remember the game, I think it was Bournemouth when Torreira let someone run. One criticism I'd say, for as well as we were doing, at times we're probably not aware to runners in midfield, same way Spurs weren't. We wasn't awake to runners all the time. What I mean by that is there was a couple times I actually saw from watching the game again, if we say this is Son was being unopposed and was making runs like this. As a midfielder, if you're Xhaka and Torreira, sometimes you got to follow them and go with them because a player like Son. And there was one incident, we actually did well to get back into position. It was a Spurs corner. Throw-in, sorry. The throw-in actually, like I said, we did well. The throw-in went into Son. Son gave it back. There was a 1-2. Eventually it came back to Eriksen. There's a 1-2. And then Son was gone here. If you remember, Son went exactly down here, bamboozled these two players in the process, and then had an effort. So that was a sign. That was essentially a sign of things to come from an Arsenal fan perspective in terms of what we need to probably be aware of, and things like that. We'll speak about all the goals in a second. Almost forgot how the second goal was scored, to be fair with you, but yeah, man, it was a good. In fact, we'll speak about. We might as well speak about the goals in the next vid. But yeah, from a tactical point of view, there's not much I can really criticise with Arsenal, man. I really like the high press from start to finish. The way I've showed you lot already, but the way we pressed their centre halves, or especially their whole team, it really helped us. Even when we went a goal down. One criticism I would say is our defending from set pieces, though. obviously Torreira and Bellerin, they're marking from the free kick that led to the goal we conceded. Bellerin and Torreira probably are two shortest players in the field, in the pitch, on the field, or two of the shortest players. Two of the least effective in the air, especially Bellerin. You've seen Bellerin pinned at far pulses, especially against Chelsea. Obviously, this was at the near post. It's poor marking essentially. It's a good ball from Chelsea. It's poor marking from us. We're zonal marking, but it's poor positioning. I did feel you could see that the Spurs players were ganging up on Bellerin, etc. In fact, let me try and see if I can give you a little visual example of it. Not the best of examples, people, but just to reiterate the point, yeah. Don't get twisted. I feel Leno should have done better in it. Like, Leno, he made some good saves for us, but there was a couple nervy moments having watched the game again. One where he came to collect the cross, and then there was obviously this way, should have done better. Now, if you remember, again, not the best of examples, but long story short, you'll get the point. Ball came in from a wide position after, well, slightly better position than this. After it was a point, if Socrates didn't have to make the foul, to be fair with you. But the ball comes in and it goes to the near post. If you look at the build-up to it, you can actually see Spurs' players, I wouldn't say gagging up on Torreira and Bellerin, but they've clearly worked on how we set up at set pieces and thought, okay, let's exploit the height difference or superiority in the air of sorts. Now, we're zonal marking, so on one hand, you can't read too much into what the opposition's doing, but on the other hand, I would like to see a bit of street smartness. Our experienced players are, again, not to fit, but you can see the red here. What they should be doing is recognizing, okay, Bellerin and Torreira are being doubled up against. Kane, Dyer, etc. Dele even went near post. All the best some of the strongest players in terms of the air or threat from this position are going to target our fullback and our midfielder, our short midfielder. It's near post. Why don't some of us drop in here, fill in, and try and put them off? Essentially, it's two man versus 3-4 of them, and none of them are in a good enough position. They're not the tallest. The ball essentially comes in, and again, Leno should do better, but Dyer slaps it home. So that's probably from our perspective where we could switch on a bit. And obviously, the goal we can, probably the second goal we conceded as well. In fact, yeah, we might as well just speak about the goals as well. Yeah, what was I gonna say? The goal we conceded from an Arsenal's perspective was pretty poor as well, because what actually happened? Let me write it down. Obviously, yeah, our goal. What could have been better is we had numerous incidences to be intact positional wise. Yeah, we're counter-attacked. How do I draw this to make sense for you guys? Yeah, that's it. We're actually slightly out of position for the goal we conceded personally. Now, we're counter-attacked, people. We're actually got men back, but we are countered. We're kind of outnumbered, essentially. It's 3v3, essentially, and that's always negative as a defender. We're out of position on a general basis. Kohler's not exactly in position not to target him. Our centre-halves are at 6s and 7s. But what do you see? Son, our midfielders, I'm not going to draw them, but you can make up your own example. Our midfielders were not following runners. I told you in the first half, Son was doing that quite a lot and not being opposed. Son, darting run. It's a darting run, unopposed. Holding is trying to be a hero. Naive as hell, of course. I've told you lot, extremely naive. They both met here, and you saw what happened. Now, Holding should stay on his feet, of course. But in the incidents, we could have done better positionally as a team. They obviously met, and you saw what happened. If Holding made that challenge, we're all going to call him Cannavaro and all of these things. But he didn't, so we can only deal with what actually happened. So, yeah. Obviously that happened and they scored the penalty, and what shall be of it shall be. Then obviously for 2-2 again, for the second goal, you actually saw us again like you saw with numerous incidences, because of how we've sat. Admittedly, the goal we'll speak about the goals in a separate vid or later, man, because I've got so much to say. But how we set up in the second half kind of brought about our second goal. While in the first half you saw more of a press like this, in the sense of, and then you obviously saw our front three, two narrow ones in Mkhitaryan and Iwobi before they came off, and then you obviously had these two, as in our fullbacks, and they were helping us press and get high up the field. You saw that. Second half, because obviously we were 2-1 down at that point, we're chasing the game as you'd expect. We're kind of nervous. We want to get back in the game. In fact, that's one criticism I could say of us. The 2 goals we've conceded, they're in a minute or less than of each other, and that's all because we've got rattled because Spurs have scored. Obviously, emotions are high, and Catch-22 could say emotions actually what brought us the victory today. But we need to keep cool. We need to keep cool heads, because we conceded 2 quick-fire goals because of it. We were probably being a bit nervous and a bit panicking and rushing the ball forward at a 10-minute period in the first half as well, making a bit. In fact, early second half and towards the end of the first half, making challenges we didn't need to challenge because we were nervous of sorts. So yeah, you saw us in the first half, but in the second half, to exaggerate it, I'll draw their goal area. You saw Lacazette and Aubameyang. Firstly, you saw Lacazette and Aubameyang split, and that's what I said is important. If you play 2 up front, they have to press. They have to. If you imagine that's their goal, that's the goal line, or even if you don't want to imagine that's the area, you can imagine they're, again, this is running out, but Spurs' back line, Spurs' defenders or people in defensive positions, they've got a split, so they can't play out the back. Then you obviously had our fullbacks, and then obviously you had Ramsey joining them in the middle. This is what was better. And then you saw Ramsey having the freedom to drop. You saw Lacazette. If Lacazette dropped, Ramsey was running in behind. Uber was dropping and doing his own thing and getting joy and getting involved in the goal. And obviously, to make it 2-2, sorry people for shaking it. We've actually exploited that very well, in my opinion. For 2-2, obviously, again, because of how we're playing defensive from a tactical point of view, and we're pressing. And they've got no options, whether it was you saw them lose the ball a lot, whether it was in the 11th minute, with Dyer, or many times in the first half with Kane dropping deep. They had no out ball. There's no out ball for them, because we were tactically, Pochettino was tactically, there's no way around it. Pochettino was tactically outclassed today. There was no out ball, like I said, for them. Continuously no out ball. That's Lloris, because he's got no out ball. Dyer, like I said, in the 11th minute, he got caught. Kane been caught many a times dropping deep. Lloris is forced long, and then we retain it. And then obviously, all goals actually you could technically say they came from wide positions, but obviously because of how we've tactically set up, we forced Lloris to play it long. Lloris kicks it long, and it's a lovely move. Obviously, you then see it go from holding. Let's draw a rough one. You go from holding to eventually it went to Bellerin, and Bellerin played that decisive pass in behind Ramsey again. Ramsey, like you saw again, not to scale. Ramsey had the freedom. So if you can imagine, we've got holding. Holding played it into Bellerin. Bellerin played that forward pass. It's all up to... This is why you got to think off the ball, because Bellerin's played the pass into this area. Then you've seen Ramsey recognise that and run in behind. And then obviously square the ball back. And then you saw Aubameyang make no mistake and pull it in. And it was a terrific finish. I did think first and second time, Lloris's positioning for both two of the last goals we've scored, probably a bit shocking. And again, because we're pressing, in fact, no, the second goal, really and truly, Lloris gets caught. Lloris gets, we obviously, I don't even draw it. You saw Fuchs get caught, not Fuchs, what's the right man's name? Foyth. Foyth got caught in a wide position. Ramsey dispossesses him and plays it inside. Just to make it a bit pleasing for you lot, because it is a tactics vid, we might as well. So Ramsey won it up about here. And again, Spurs' positioning isn't the best. Lacazette made it happen. Yeah. You obviously saw Lacazette and Ramsey pick his pocket from us actually pressing. Ramsey's the only one. Ramsey actually started out here. I don't know why I got him here. Ramsey's actually started out here, people. He started here, the circle. He just simply pressed Foyth, and Foyth's been caught, and then he's dispatched it to Lacazette. Lacazette's had the ball, and obviously Lacazette's attacked that space, and he's fashioned a shot for himself, and you obviously saw the finish that came. So it's 3-2 at this point. I've spoken about, at least I think I've spoken about the two Aubameyang goals. Aubameyang obviously scored the penalty, and things like that. So it's 2-2 at this point. Well, it's 3-2 at this point now. The last goal that we scored was impressive as well. I counted about 11 passes. Again, it came from a wide area, actually from a throw-in. I felt we did very well to hold on to the ball. Everyone was involved. We actually recycled it from side to side. I'm trying to make this. Sorry, people. I'm trying to make this. Really trying to bring it to life for you, look. You saw hella 2v1s, and you actually saw them not watching runners. You saw a lovely move. It actually started from the left-hand side. Kohler actually threw the ball in. He takes it down the left-hand side, and he does well to retain it. We then do what a typical Arsenal side do. If we can't go one side, we'll recycle it to the other. So it comes back. It goes into Xhaka. Ramsey has touches. Aubameyang, Lacazette has touches. Torreira's actually involved as well on this hand side. He's actually involved in the goal. He gets a couple touches. I actually think he dispatches it out wide. Now, the ball is dispatched to Lacazette, I believe. And at a point, Torreira makes the run. For some reason, Aubameyang's over there because he's trying to get onto the ball. He gets onto the ball. Torreira's already made this run. Aubameyang's already played him in. And then obviously once Torreira's already in, he makes no mistake. It was about 11 passes, and it was nice to see us. Again, apologies, people. It was nice to see us not only playing good football from a passing perspective, but also movement. So to see 11 passes, 11, 12 passes, it was very good, man. Like I said, it was nice to see we had a game plan. It was nice to see we was forcing Lloris long because we was consistently pressing them. What else? It's nice to see how we changed the way our sort of style in the second half, because it's easy to remember we were chasing the game for the first 5 minutes after half time. Spurs were actually ahead of us, and then we patterned it up and things like that. Even if you remember in the first half, I think Aubameyang was offside. We quickly split Spurs. It was about 2 passes, clip ball over the top for Aubameyang. I think it was from Xhaka. Aubameyang was offside. Even if you remember the play in the first half, which I think Aubameyang was actually offside. Lovely play from, again, I think Leno, and again down the left-hand side with everybody involved. It's a fizz ball, and if you remember, it was slightly behind Aubameyang, and the shot is saved regardless. But it was nice to see how within 3, 4, 5 passes, we're able to go from defence and attack. Playing out from the back was impressive. Again, I think Spurs' players were quite lazy in that regards, especially with our back line, because they were kind of enabling it. I think if you look at it, Spurs did pretty poor in that regards. Guendouzi as well. He's a good player, but when he's the last man, he needs to probably fix up, because if you remember rightly, he's actually the last man for one of the goals, the build-up to one of the goals. He's the last man. He makes a mistake. Leno comes rushing out, recovers the ball, and eventually we go and start the goal. I think it was for the 3rd goal, I believe. So it was nice to see that. What I also like to see, I saw Torreira and Mustafi arguing after we conceded the free kick goal, the Dyer's first and Spurs' first. So like I said, it was nice to see how we was pressing and things like that. We've spoken about that. It was nice to have a game plan. It's not only were the substitutions on point from Unai Emery, the tactics. We went from a 3-4-3 to a 3-4-1-2 essentially, in the sense that if I draw that for you again, because you lot know I'm all about giving you value. So we got 3. We've obviously got fullback, centre mid. Then you had 1, then you had 2, and this enabled us to press their back line a lot. It enabled us to press their back line. Why? I've already showed you Aubameyang and Lacazette. They used to split. They got up the field. Ramsey had the license to not only drop and take runners, to get up there and make it a free when pressing so they could go wider. And or maybe if one drops, again, he takes advantage. Again, Ramsey had the license to press, and you've seen him involved in 2 of the goals. You saw it's the most impressive one for me is which actually Lacazette's goal when he pressed for Lacazette. He just won the ball and then played it into Lacazette. If he didn't do that, we wouldn't have scored. Simple things like that. So we was on point. It was nice to see how we changed it. It was nice to see the movement. They all came alive. And games like that, it pops off for Ramsey when it's open like that. The issue is games aren't like that too often. Already showed you Torreira and them lot out of position. I've already spoken about losing our heads. I've spoken about Bellerin to Xhaka to Torreira. And then obviously Aubameyang was offside. Again, we're split. What I liked, it was taking us 2 seconds to split defense and attack essentially. Yeah, man, it was going from Bellerin. In fact, there's no need to draw that essentially. You lot saw it yourself. We was quickly dispatching the ball, and I've probably spoken about that one enough times as well. Spoken about the high press. Spoken about what they did. We've spoken about the goals. And I actually think Foyth, he was poor, but he was actually hard done by because his own players were shouting at him. He was getting stressed out by our players. Like, even the first, it's actually all Aurier's fault. Aurier's poor positionally. So I couldn't understand why he was shouting at Foyth as well. So, yeah, I really couldn't understand that. But that's for him, innit? What other notes have I got? This was my initial notes, what I was taking first time to bring in this vid. I've already said Iwobi and Aubameyang pressed. We forced Loris Long many a time. Just to reiterate that point, what I mean by forcing Loris Long, Spurs, to play to how they want to play, people need to get onto the ball. If this cuts out, because I think I might be running out of memory, forgive me, people. Just to exaggerate, because of how we set up, again, I've told you lot, wingers, our fullbacks did well in that regards. Midfielders did well in that regards. Then obviously, you had Aubameyang, you had Mkhitaryan, and you had the rest. You saw many of occasions where Xhaka nicked the ball, Iwobi nicked the ball, someone was just nicking in front. What I specifically mean by this is, people, they had no out ball. Obviously, you can see the Spurs players in blue. If you want me to exaggerate a bit more and do 3 at the back, you've seen Kane. They had no out ball. They're all marked. If Loris, Loris is in blue, people. Think about it logically. If Loris plays it to my man, we're going to close him down, which we did do. We're going to close him down to the centre-halves. Left backs, 2v1, they're not going to get far. Like you saw many a times, they will go out to their full-backs, and then it will come back inside because there was no option, because there was no runner. I think Kane and Dele, like I said, they could have done better pressing our back line. But to us, there was no out ball. They can't give it to their full-backs. Their midfielders, like you saw with Dyer, they're getting dispossessed any time, and them, man, they are not the most expansive of passes or bravest of passes, so it's easier for Arsenal. Kane is getting frustrated, so Kane is dropping deep, and then there's no out ball. So with all that being said, Loris is forced to kick it either long into these channels, people, or long up there, to which was to our advantage, and we was bringing it, making it pay and countering them time after time with that. So I did like us in that regards. Yeah. I don't really think there's anything more I can add on, to be fair with you. Like, the only thing negative really that I'm taking from the game is that I felt in games where we don't do what we did in the second half, we'll be looking at us losing our heads because it took us about 40 seconds to a minute to concede. Within conceding both them goals, we did lose our heads. There's passion, and again, I'm not faulting our passion. We're clearly passionate, but just from a tactical point of view, because I obviously haven't been them players, but I've been that player in that you lose your head, it's a game you want to win. Just keep doing things right, and we were shell-shocked twice. It was good. It's catch-22 because it enabled us to get back in the game, but if I'm finding fault, it's probably of that part. What can I say, man? It was tactically, I praise Unai Emery for how they set up. There's a clear game plan, like I said. Clearly, our lads were working on what they needed to work on in the week and how we can exploit Spurs, and they did that. Hopefully, it's more of the same people against Man United. But for now, deluded people, I'm out. Comment, subscribe, and the rest, man. Love every time. Hopefully, I've given you guys something to take home. Like I said, I watched the game again. I was up all night watching it again. And what was it? It was about 2:30 in the morning. I was going to make this vid, but then I thought my whole house don't need to suffer because I want to make vids. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. It's Monday now. Time for me to go and get ready. Yeah, man, it's always a good start to the week when we've won a big game at the weekend, or if we won at the weekend in general. But people, stay blessed, stay safe, deluded. Oh, and before I go, obviously you saw games like that where it pops for Ramsey. There's also sadly times where it's like playing with 10 men because the game's not set up for runners in behind, for runners, for high pressing. Sometimes the game's a bit more cerebral, a bit more calculated, to which Ramsey doesn't stand out. But games like this is what I've been talking about. These are games for him. And actually, my Man United preview, I think it's a game for bravery, and I think you should consider him playing, to be fair. On that note, like I said, I'm keeping you guys longer than you need to. So stay safe, stay blessed. People, deluded, the original tactician, the first and the original who was doing this thing. They can copy, but they can't add source to their thing. We might not have the views and resources that some have, but we've got the ability and the knowledge. And that's why each and every one of you are here. People, deluded, I'm out. Thank you very much. Arsenal 4, Spurs, Tottenham Hotspurs 2. Yeah, man. North London is always red. It's always going to be red, man. Ha! People, deluded, I'm back again. Now, at this point, you've probably seen the tactics vid, but I thought, well, you guys always know I like to reiterate points, and I like to use any excuse to bring things out like this and whatnot. My good old friend, the whiteboard's going to have to sit this one out. But yeah, I just wanted to speak briefly, people, literally briefly, about how we our approach again. Now, like I said, I've done it on the whiteboard, but again, probably maybe because it's got the football markings and things like that, it might be a bit more pleasing on the eye to understand. Now, blue is Spurs because Spurs was the away team yesterday. This is what I liked. Now, this is our setup in the first half. Again, it's not to scale. Lost a lot of the things, so Spurs' strikers and a couple of our, in fact, our fullbacks are missing in it, people. But this is what I liked. I'm going to pretend these are fullbacks in a second, these two here. But this is what I liked. First half, this is how we pressed. Now, Spurs, they're a ball-playing side. They want to play. You have to make the pitch bigger. So, typically, what do you see? You see both of their centre-halves, they're here in play. But when it comes to receiving the ball, starting attacking phases, they get wide to the edge of the area. The fullbacks, they have to provide width so they get out there. But first and foremost, these lot, they all have to be options. Because of how we pressed, obviously, on paper, you'd probably say Mkhitaryan and Lacazette, Iwobi should be more out here, people. But in reality, they were more here, helping to press as a free. They were pressing as a free. Now, typically against Arsenal, this is fun and dandy, but it means 2v1 situations. That wasn't the case because our fullbacks, free at the back, it gave us a bit more stability in this position, so we could afford to probably be higher up the field. And they had no out ball. They were forcing it. They were forcing it long. Let's use him as an example. We're forcing him long. If my fingers are centre halves, he's alone. So one's able to. There's three of them. One's able to get tight to him. So it was just coming back and forth for Spurs, and we were able to force them to play it long to our advantage. In the second half, you saw it change slightly in the sense that if I remove them for a sec, you saw something more along these lines. Obviously, people, you had our fullbacks and their fullbacks. Ours were making an option, but ours was slightly different. Whereas you saw Aubameyang and then it was Mkhitaryan and Iwobi like that. You've seen us because Ramsey's come onto the field and we've brought on Lacazette. You've now got Aubameyang here. You've got Lacazette here, and you've obviously got Ramsey. Now games, this is what throws up the Ramsey debate, because games that are open like this, Ramsey is a joy, because Ramsey, like you saw for the goal, Foyth happened. Ramsey, no one was next to Foyth. Ramsey simply got onto him and passed the ball. And if we pretend this is, well, in fact, it is Lacazette, and played it into Lacazette here. Ramsey helps to press. Games like this where he's got the license, where it's open and the license to go forward and dominate, it pays advantage. But at times, games are more calculated. It's not always open like that. It's not always, Spurs aren't always poor like that. There's games where we've got to be calculated. So if there's always games where you've seen incidences where Ramsey's actually gone ahead, Spurs still have the ball, they're able to counter-attack us instantly. Now, Torreira or Xhaka, pretending, let's just say that Xhaka, he's caught up the field. It's irrelevant because we're already outnumbered. Xhaka's not the quickest. Torreira's a fighter, but you can't fight three man. And that's a goal on the other hand, to be fair with you. So, yeah, man, I liked the way we pressed. And I already said, I said in the preview how I felt we need to probably target wide positions. Probably I would play Aubameyang on the left-hand side. He didn't play on the left-hand side, but equally he did well in my opinion. And I say this because How did the first goal develop? You saw a move, and I'm just drawing this at a period now. My man was out of position, so you can go there. Slightly out of position. You saw a move start. Now, some of them, these are relevant. Don't pay attention. Let me take these off. Now, what did you typically see people... Oh, no, we need the red one. You saw, for the free kick that led to our first goal, what did you see, people? You saw Loris force it to Kane, and I think we had a free kick, and eventually we recycled possession. You saw it go from Leno eventually, I think, to Holding or down to the left-hand side. Eventually, it found its way to Kola, and Kola played it forward into Aubameyang. Now, Aurier's positioning is all wrong, causing him to go back or step back, and he made a foul. And then obviously we got because of that foul, when he was shouting at Foyth, I can't understand why, we got a free kick. The free kick led to a penalty, which led to a goal. I don't want to say I was right, but was I not right, people? What do you see here? What did I tell you? We need to get at their fullbacks, because their fullbacks not only leave space, but we need to not only leave space, but if they play Aurier, he's not the most switched on defensively. And I said, while he didn't play out there, I said, Aubameyang, we need to probably get him to work the channels. And I said to start out there as well. Start out there and get in wide positions and isolate them and do exactly that. Is that not what he did? If the ball came from Kola, he took advantage. Obviously, the foul was made. You obviously saw the free kick and then the penalty, and the rest of it is history. But yeah, that's just another point I wanted to make, man. For me, in general, people... I'm happy with how we played. I'm happy with the clear game plan. I'm happy with a lot of things. I do think, to a degree, it will take a year or so for us to fully integrate in terms of the pressing style that Unai Emery wants to play. I say this because we're not pressing for 90 minutes. The hardest thing to do is press for 90 minutes. Press consistently for 90 minutes. You get tired. But City managed to make it happen. Obviously, at incidences, because of just human genetics, man are tired. There's incidences where they drop off. But it's fun. You need to be able to do that. It's all fun and games doing it in the first 20. You need to be able to do that in the first 20 and equally to a similar standard in the last 20. So maybe we need to fully adapt to him and things like that in that regards. I don't know. I might make a vid about that. But for now, anyways, people... Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate some more points, so I did. People, it's been a pleasure. Deluded, stay safe and enjoy your Monday morning back to work. And if you're a Spurs fan, ha!